Hey, welcome back to Bounty and Soul's Plant-Powered Kitchen. It's me, Lyric. I'm here today to make baked onion rings. I'm really excited about it. Onion rings used to be one of my favorite greasy, fried, crunchy foods, but I really tried to transition away from eating deep-fried foods because they can be really inflammatory within the body, and that's going to weaken a lot of different systems in your body, like your immune system. It can affect joint health, heart health, even your mood and your sleep patterns can be disrupted when you have lots of inflammation in the body. So instead of a deep fried onion ring, we're going to do a plant-based baked onion ring. It's really simple to put together too. You just need a few ingredients. First, you need to pick your onions. You can really use any variety of onion that you like. I have some really big yellow onions here, and then I also have some smaller varieties of onions that I grew in my garden, just to kind of show how many different types of onions there are. Onions were once a wild plant, and they didn't look anything like these bulbs. They probably had a really thin bulb underneath the soil, and they were cultivated by indigenous peoples to grow bigger and bigger bulbs and have different colors and all of the characteristics that we associate with onions today. But there are still wild onions actually. There's wild green onions that grow in yards and fields all over this region, and there's also wild ramps which grow in the mountains here. I'm going to make my rings with these because they're nice and big, so that's going to create big rings for me. I'll grab my cutting board and we'll get started. So when you cut your onions, you want to make sure you're cutting it so that you are going to get the ring shape, a continuous ring. So what you want to do is cut off the ends. And that's the same direction that I'm going to cut my rings. So what you want to do is to peel off the skin. When you pulled those off, it probably ripped the skin a little bit, and so then you can just peel the rest of it off. So like I said, the flat ends are the sides, and so you want to cut down into it, and that's what's going to give you your rings. So I've cut my onion into these circles. It looks like a moon, and within this circle is a bunch of individual rings. So we're going to pop those all out into a bowl so that you have just single layers. I have my onions chopped and ready to go in ring form. It's great at this step if you let your onions sit out for 15 to 30 minutes. And this is true for any dish that you're going to cook with onions. If you let them sit out chopped for 15 to 30 minutes before you cook them, it can help to release enzymes that are medicinal and help to digest the onions themselves and other foods as well. So I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, and then I'll come back and we'll enter the breading stage. And now I need to make two separate bowls that I'll use to coat the onion rings. So you can find the whole recipe and follow along in the description of this video. I'm going to make a slightly smaller batch because I'm just cooking for myself. I have one bowl which has all-purpose flour, gluten-free all-purpose flour. You could also use a whole wheat flour if gluten is not a consideration for you, but I have all-purpose gluten-free flour with a little bit of cornstarch. That's going to help the breading stick to the onion rings. I'm going to add some almond milk to my flour and cornstarch mixture. You could use oat milk or coconut milk or whatever plant-based milk you have on hand. And I'm also going to add a splash of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to stir this together. It should be thick, but still liquidy. So this is my batter for the onion rings. And then I'm going to make my breadcrumb toppings. I'm using a gluten-free breadcrumb blend. This is pre-made and it's pre-flavored, so it has herbs and flavor in it. If you are using a plain breadcrumb mixture, unflavored, you can get creative with how you want your breading to taste. If you like it plain, that's also great. But mine comes already flavored, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. And then all you need to add to your breadcrumbs, whatever breadcrumbs you choose to use, and then you just want to add a little bit of a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. You could use another unrefined oil. And this is going to help keep the onion rings nice and moist. Since we're not deep frying them, we're baking them. So I'm just pinching this with my fingers and blending the oil in there. Now I'm ready to assemble my onion rings. So you can do this assembly line style. So you have your onion rings, your milk mixture first, and then your breadcrumb mixture. You're gonna lay these on a greased baking pan with a little bit of olive oil. So you take your onion ring, you dunk it first in the milk mixture, and you can let the excess drip off, and then into the breadcrumbs, and kind of pat on the breadcrumbs so that they stick, and then lay it out on your pan. Okay, I'm gonna put these in the oven at 450 degrees for 8 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip them and bake for another 6 minutes. My onion rings are ready. You can see they're golden brown, a little darker brown in places. I flipped them about halfway through baking, so they're evenly browned on each side. The onion itself, you can see, is flexible and soft. Let's give them a taste. This onion's actually really mild, but the breading is nice and crisp. It didn't get dried out. The onion is soft. It's almost like caramelized and gooey. I'll give it a thumbs up. So this is a great way to enjoy all of the health benefits of onion, like vitamin C, vitamin B6, and some of those digestive enzymes that we spoke about, without the inflammatory effects of a deep fried onion ring. And a note too about breading, if you don't have breadcrumbs, you could always make your own. You can use the butts, like the ends of bread loaves, or you could use the bread itself, but it's a great way to make use of the butts, the ends, if you don't typically use them, and you can dry them in your oven or in a dehydrator, and then crumble them up yourself, and then you have breadcrumbs. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Feel free to comment with photos of your onion rings, and I look forward to cooking with you again soon.